like that. It's a fixed generator installed at the church.
Did somebody pick up the package that was on the table downstairs?
I did.
This was his package, can you hand it to me, please? I handed you one.
Yes, you did.
And
It was right there.
now, what happens if
Thank
this
you.
money's not spent? Goes back into the general fund? If this is budgeted and not spent, what happens to that? That's fine.
Any funds go back to general fund.
General fund.
And discussion happened last year in terms of whether we should budget for this or not. The budget was presented last year as it had always been presented with the funds in there in case of a disaster, but the discussion did come up whether we want to do that or not. So that, that's something that can be discussed tonight and potentially, in terms of preparing the budget that goes to council, we can either include it or not include it. Because you can always come back and of course do a budget amendment if a disaster does happen.
Yeah, one more thing about that, if you recall the Stoneville tornadoes that happened years ago, the generator was called for and it was taken to Rockingham County. It wasn't used, but it was taken up there. Let's just say that it was used up there. When a disaster happens like that, Rockingham County is going to set up an incident command post. And let's say that the governor of North Carolina declares a disaster, President Obama declares a disaster, and now it's open up for FEMA money to come rolling in. And that could be true here as well, but if the generator needs fuel, it is up to that incident command system in whatever county. And
To furnish the fuel.
Right, that's the best thing to do. So it's operating, they're gonna get the fuel to come in and fuel it up. What you always want to do is when you're cut loose in that scene by command, you always want to make sure, hey, can you fill us up before we go back?
Who took the generator up to Rockingham County?
I don't know, I don't know.
How was it transported?
The fire department took it up there, I'm sorry.
They did?
Yeah.
Were we reimbursed for that or anything as far as, or would have we been reimbursed for it, or is that something that we
Full tank of fuel.
would just
What we hoping for?
Yeah,
let Rockingham County?
I don't think there was any funding, because the fire department personnel took it up there.
Okay.
And it was the town of Summerfield's generator, but it wasn't used, so I don't think anything was really.
If it had been used, would we have been reimbursed for it? Or
Yeah.
would we have even cared to be, that's what I'm asking. Is that
Well,
something?
Lead.
Yeah, with mutual aid, I think
Yeah.
there would have been, if it had been declared an act,
Comes
either
under
state or
EMAC.
federal, then we would have been able to participate in it. It may not have been worth the paperwork and time.
Right.
That's
It was
just it.
just a,
I think
county
it's
coming
going to
out
depend
of
how
town.
long it's going to be used up.
Well, I mean, I don't have any problem letting Rockingham County use the generator for nothing, that's not what I'm saying, I just wondered if there were provisions that the state or the federal government
Oh,
would
yeah.
pay. Yeah.
Yeah, all that will come under EMAC, whether it's out of your jurisdiction, whether it's across state lines or whatever. We would work with, actually, we could work with our Gulf County Emergency Management here, or we can work directly with Rockingham County, if disasters in Rockingham County, with their emergency management folks to give you all the proper paperwork to fill out and so on, and send it in.
I have a question.
Sure.
If we did loan it out and they tore it up, or whatever, something
They're
happened,
going to be
they're
responsible.
gonna reimburse us, buy new, pay
That,
for
that's
repairs.
whatever they work out with
Oh,
town of Summerfield.
Do you know how many hours is on that generator? I mean,
Um,
that's what we would actually go by rather than time, wouldn't it? Or-
Yeah, there's the meter on there for that, and right now, the fire department is doing these checks, and they've got a form, they write it all down, I forgot how many hours it's on it right now. But it is ran, and you gotta keep that paperwork too, with those, especially with those hours on there, that's the EPA issue as well, if they ever wanna get involved.
In your opinion, do we have a young generator?
I think for what we use it for now, which isn't much, we're okay.
Good.
I mean, I wouldn't go to the churches and try to come up with money to install a standalone big system, I just wouldn't do
I
it.
mean, a diesel engine lasts a long, long
Okay.
time, a long time.
Yeah.
I don't know about the generator itself, but the diesel engines last a long time.
One of the issues that we've ever actually run into is it doesn't get used enough.
Yeah.
Exactly.
But we've had to put in some repairs, and I've actually encouraged it to be used more often, so I'm glad that you were suggesting it get run twice a month.
Yeah.
And even use it for other programming events in the town just to get some life in it, because what we
Yeah.
want, because it really does, generators, if they don't get used, they actually freeze up and cause more problems when you try to use them. That's what we ran into last year when we did the ham radio emergency management 24 or 48-hour event. We ended up having to not be able to use our generator, because when we turned it on and tried to run it for any length of time, it actually started to cause a problem. We had to go get it serviced before we could do that again. So,
Yeah, we took it, when we had the Center United Methodist Church wired for that generator, we took it down there and it started up. The problem was, and it was a minor thing, but at the top of the exhaust pipe, there's a flapper valve up there. It keeps any moisture out when it's not running. When we started it up, it stuck. And so we realized that real quick, we had to shut it down, not to burn it up. So
For lack of use.
That was a minor, exactly, all from a lack of use. That's primarily it for the generator. Crime prevention, we kind of changed this. It was the Operation Safe County, that community project was what I call a standalone, separate item. But we added Crime Stoppers in, so we just changed that kind of the word crime prevention. Operation Safe County project, that's a project that the Sheriff's Department does every year. They mainly do it for your mainly your first graders up to your fifth graders, and they'll go even higher above that. Depends how many people's going to come into that project. And they do all types of things like internet safety, pieces of a DARE program, and other issues like that. Number one, it keeps keeps the kids informed and to do the right thing and not be on the street doing the wrong thing, so to speak. We put in, I believe it was $1,800 or $2,000 last year. We went ahead and matched that this year to put that in there. Crime Stoppers, there was discussion about, because that's good for all of Guilford County, where you're in Summerfield, Pleasant Garden, whatever, mainly to do our part as far as I guess a donation, if you would, to the Crime Stoppers program of $1,000. So that is an addition to this year's budget, that $1,000.
And as an FYI on that, Crime Stoppers is a 501c3, so we have requested the CBO documents. We've received a couple of them. We're waiting on several others. So that may be something that you'll receive an email in the next couple of weeks for review for the next meeting.
May I ask you another question?
Sure.
I don't want to harp on, but getting back to this fuel. $4.50 a gallon is too much to figure for off-road diesel fuel. I had much rather see you put in what you honestly figure is a reasonable amount for the fuel. And if you go over, explain to Michael why you went over.
Okay.
I mean, in other words.
So you're probably looking at actual fuel use.
I would like to see the actual, I mean, why would we want to pad it and put the money back into the general fund? I mean, if you run out of money to pay for the fuel, Michael's gonna come up with the money.
Okay.
Or Dana's gonna come up with, one of them's gonna come up with the money to pay the fuel, but I'd rather them have an accurate amount of fuel, and then if it needs to be, because that's the only way we're gonna get any numbers to go on in years to come. And if it needs to be going up on next year, well, the reason being, we had 3 tornadoes, and that's the reason it ran, so Michael had to come up with the money. Is that a legitimate way to look at
no,
that?
I think that's fine, because there are emergency powers for purchasing built into our purchasing policies. So if there was truly emergency that we ran out of fuel, there's going to be fuel.
But this way you would know, and say the fuel goes up to $4.50, well, that's the only thing you gotta say, Michael. If we were $4.50 a gallon, that's the reason, and use this many gallons.
Yeah, we looked at it from a planning issue,
I know.
where we really didn't know, we were trying to plan for the worst, but no, we can do that.
And historically, that's what we've done with the budget for public safety over the years, and I think now we're coming to the point, everybody wants to see more of a budget of what we spend versus what could potentially happen.
Exactly.
When, historically, we haven't had the disasters, so why budget for them, so.
How did you come out last year? It's the same amount as last year?
It was, the
Close.
total amount
Over,
was
under, the same?
little less than this,
A little less.
yeah. As far as budgeting.
Budgeting, yeah, but in
We
terms of
had
Actual cost.
the actual was like nothing
Oh, yeah,
compared to this, because, of course, we didn't have to run the generator, so we didn't have those fuel costs.